Greetings and the best of salutations. Just going over a few things in my mind, processing some things. What, when it comes to life experiences, it says it's like one's thinking is not independent of the culture in which he or she was raised up in or grew up in. When it comes to family, friends, and environment as well, and what reinforces certain beliefs that you have. If you had to spend an instrumental amount of time having to travel to school, that experience would afford you the opportunity to bond with others who are embarking or taking that journey with you. Or if you had a sister or a brother that is around the same age as you, he was going through that same institution, there was a form of bonding as well. And as some people who grew up in an environment where they didn't have to lock their doors, it reinforces their belief that the environment is a safe place to live. But when someone possibly break in their house, it reinforces that the environment is not a safe place to live. What reinforces one's belief? I've learned that belief is an uncertainty. But what puts one in a position that he or she is able to excel in what he or she believes in? First, I realized that one's culture, his family, and environment, his experiences, and how he or she has raised helps a lot. But what if that particular individual comes from what is called a stable household, but yet outside of that household, the child wanders off and finds a place of belonging outside of that stable household and find a sense of belonging with other individuals and to participate in unhealthy activity, abnormal activity, which has been accepted as normal. And maybe one could call that a subculture rather than a culture, not that I'm playing on words. Well, is it guaranteed that that you can live in a safe environment? It's culture, family, friends. One must be trustworthy. But I also realized that one must not be suspicious of him or herself. And that's due to an environment of doubt. So if you have any form of a person of an addiction, if you may call it, or the need for self-importance, or the need for validation, and when one does not, when one is not suspicious of himself, and don't create an environment of doubt, at least in his or her thinking and ability, that he or she can be trustworthy, in a culture that possibly is not trustworthy, even amongst family members that may not be trustworthy, and even so-called friends that may not be trustworthy due to the influences that they are under, addicted to the influences and therefore unable to overcome the impulses and the natural enemies that which we are unable to control, our instincts. Is that realizing that humans were not created to harbor ill will feelings toward each other. They're not created to be really suspicious of each other. Nor should we doubt each other. But where did that influence come from? It had to come from something or possibly someone. Well, you can tell the collective psychology of one's mentality by what he or she produces, so it's a thinking. Anytime you have to create laws or what they call to amend something, that means that you are suspicious. You live in an environment of doubt. You are suspicious of each other. That means you do not trust each other. And when you don't trust each other, you really don't respect each other. And when people don't respect each other, they don't have social solidarity. But before there is social solidarity, there must be social credibility. After social credibility, it is social diversity. After that, there is social coherency. And after that, it is social continuity. In the end, you have social solidarity. The laws of physics says that when someone can exact the same force that they can exact on you, you'll proceed coming at you with caution. So the first sign is a cautionary sign. May we learn to be caution. But some would say, throw caution into the wind. Be vulnerable. Vulnerability is all right. Like everything else, it has its place. How can you be vulnerable around people? And we display vulnerability just by interacting with certain people, whether we know it or not. And not saying we know it or not, but we do. But it's the extent of that vulnerability. That if one who is suspicious of him or herself and living in an environment of doubt, and they doubt his or her ability to be successful in the way that will be constructive rather than destructive, and they are under the influence of an addiction of being destructive. So they will misuse their faculties in their limbs and taking advantage of the vulnerability of another because their vulnerability has been taken advantage of. There is much work that needs to be done when it comes to development of one's intellect for the betterment of humanity and our social interaction skills, our interpersonal skills. That we don't harbor ill will feelings toward ourselves and be suspicious of each other. That we don't doubt each other. And when that comes into being, you start to lose confidence in your ability to do what's right. And when the opportunity to do wrong presents itself, you will do wrong. One brother never said this any better. He said it took him 50 years or more to realize he couldn't do wrong right. May we learn to be constructive rather than destructive, and not harbor ill will feelings toward ourselves. Be not suspicious of your own ability to do great things, to overcome animosity, to overcome distress, which leads to anxiety attacks. So we see, when one goes about doubting him or herself and suspicious of him or herself as well as others, it is the anxiety. Because social stress leads to mental pain, and mental pain leads to physical harm. Yes. May it be well with your soul, and hopefully I could sustain that which is well with my soul. Going beyond anything that will prevent me to harbor being suspicious of myself. Even though others may be suspicious of me, because when you are suspicious, it means you are suspect. When you are suspect, you maybe are under investigation. When you are in investigation, there is an inspection going on, and one wants to inspect you. But some philosopher says an unexamined life is not a life worth living at all. So we all are under possibly the examination process. And they call it a test, they call it an exam. And the test is designed to see how you process information. And when I think of information, I think you are information, and it is uniformity. And then we will come to realize that oneness is stronger than conflict, and unity is stronger than diversity. Peace be unto you all. May we not be a threat to each other, culturally, so-called racially, politically, morally, arrogantly, economically, socially, religiously, spiritually, and academically. Reverend Walamu Kevin, teachers of teachers, preachers of preachers, when it comes to reverence from the heart. Until next time, talk to you.